Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, October 1st, 2021. I'm Andrew Hanson alongside Josh Crash Davis. We just finished recording the Week 4 main slate podcast, so check that out if you haven't already. But now we're going to break down both primetime games. And man, Josh, what a matchup here with Tampa and New England. And then we'll get to the Raiders and Chargers. But Tom Brady coming back to New England, and it's going to be quite a unique situation. And you found the video a while back with the voice situation, the hoarse voice. Interesting little twist here as we lead up to kickoff.
Yeah, he looked. Tom Brady looked like he had been. I don't know what had happened to him. I thought he might have been sick or something with a cold or something like that. But I guess he just been yelling so much in practice that he had completely gone hoarse. So he's definitely fired up for this game. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he is. And I expect him to get a really warm welcome. I've followed him closely here for these last couple decades.
Yeah.
Being in New England. And, the fans just absolutely love him. You wouldn't believe how many license plates you'll see in New England that are TB12 or some variation of Brady or the Patriots. So they're going to really welcome him. It's going to be an interesting dynamic with, Tampa Bay coming in as this defending Super Bowl champs, much better record and start to the season than New England, much more of a talented roster. But yeah, I mean, he really is going to be fired up to make a statement here, I think. And so no big surprise that he was, yelling and all fired up early in the week here to get after this one, especially after a loss, right? I mean, Brady, he doesn't mess around after a loss.
Right. Yeah, he'll be fired up for that, fired up for coming back to New England. He's just going to be fired up, period. So
yep, and Tampa favored by 7 here on the road, total of 49 at BetUS.com.pa, one of our partners. So why don't you start out with the Bucs side here and break down this attack?
Yeah, so for the Bucs, they do have a couple key injuries. The first thing I want to look at is their injury report. Of course, Gio Bernard has already been ruled out. So Leonard Fournette's going to get the lion's share of the carries, it looks like, in the start. And then Jamel Dean was ruled out. And now it's kind of interesting. There is a chance that Richard Sherman might actually be able to suit up. They just, signed him, and he's only been there for a couple days, but it looks like they might throw him in there. So that could be an interesting situation. And then Rob Gronkowski, it's really hard to imagine him not playing in this game with him coming back to New England, but he is listed as doubtful. So I definitely have to take, some precaution there, because at doubtful, it's, pretty unlikely that he's going to play. At least that's what they say. So, and then there is an outside chance that they're going to get Jason Pierre-Paul back. So that would be a big boost for their pass rush, obviously.
Yeah, it sure would. And then Scotty Miller's out too.
Yeah.
One of the wideouts. So we've got some key injuries and guys coming back on the Tampa side.
Right. And then for the Bucs, of course, Tom Brady's he's off to another good start this year. He's got 10 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. Had a big game last week with 432 yards passing against the Rams. And he only threw 1 touchdown, which is pretty surprising for a game where you throw 432 yards passing and only have 1 touchdown. But I'm sure he's ready to put all that behind him this week. Pro Football Focus has him projected as the 4th highest scoring quarterback this week, even though New England has the 2nd best rated pass defense in the NFL this year with only 159 yards allowed per game. They do have one of their key areas of weakness, and that's one of the Bucs' strengths is the quick passing game. New England is allowing 8.7 yards per attempt on the quick passes, which is the most in the NFL. And they're also allowing 127.2 passer rating on quick passes. So that definitely, favors the Bucs passing game. And one guy that they could definitely take a look at that Brady will try and find pretty often, I think, is Antonio Brown. Pro Football Focus gave him the highest rated matchup of the receivers for Tampa this week. And so I think that Antonio Brown's definitely going to be in play. Another guy with Gronkowski being doubtful that they could look at is going to be Cameron Brate. He's also going to be making his return to Massachusetts. He actually went to school in Harvard, and believe it or not, he actually used to wear Gronkowski's jersey in college. So it's kind of come full circle for him and for Brady, obviously. But Cameron Brate would definitely be a red zone target option for sure for Brady if Gronk's out. And then in the running game, Leonard Fournette's projected to be the starting running back for the Bucs. And New England's currently ranked 24th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. And of course, we saw what they did last week, what Alvin Kamara did last week to them. Pretty much did whatever he wanted. So the running game has been the way to attack the Patriots so far, but this is not a normal passing attack going against the Patriots either. So there's lots of opportunities for Tampa here.
Yeah, I agree. Running games have been successful. So, Fournette is in a pretty good spot, but the overall stats for New England in that pass defense, I think, can be a little bit misleading just based on the matchups they've had so far.
Yeah.
You mentioned the very low amount of passing yards allowed per game, but they did face Tua and the Dolphins in week 1, Zach Wilson and the Jets in week 2, and then Jameis Winston last week when he had Kamara to turn to carry the load. So, this is the first time New England's going to face a real strong passing attack. And with the ultra-motivated Brady, I do think they'll have a lot of success. And I agree. I think Antonio Brown's in a good spot coming back from the COVID list. And the tight end situation looks good too. I mean, it looks like a strong area to attack. And I agree. I mean, how can Gronk sit this one out? I mean, those ribs must be really banged up. But if he does, great. He has stepped up before, very capable, can get in the end zone. Nice price, only $4,200. You get a big discount off of Gronk.
Yeah.
And Antonio Brown, you mentioned the best rating according to Pro Football Focus, our wonderful partners. And he's a lot cheaper on DraftKings than Godwin and Evans. So you save a bunch if you go there. And then I think it is big news that Giovanni Bernard is out. Last week he caught 9 balls for 51, and that's a lot of production to go around. Now, it was negative game script. We don't think that's going to happen this week.
Right.
And Fournette and Jones aren't known for receiving. But just one side note, on the year, Fournette has 12 receptions. Ronald Jones only has 1. So I do think he'll get more of those opportunities when they're there. Obviously much more expensive, but I wouldn't mind getting some exposure to Fournette. And as much as Brady wants to smash here, I don't think, if they're inside the 5, if he thinks it's the right play to hand it off to Fournette, I think he'll do it.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's definitely going to be, they get down to that goal line situation, it's going to be Fournette, probably be the first option, at least on first and second down. So
absolutely. All right, well, let's transition to the New England side. Really tough spot here after that opening loss to Miami when they should have won, but they fumbled and took care of business with the Jets, but then, back down to earth with the loss to New Orleans, and now they've got Brady and company. So they are the 7-point dogs. In terms of their strategy, I think it has to be to pass. And, that's tough for Belichick. He has built this team around running the ball and playing defense, but you don't really want to run the ball against Tampa. They are ultra strong against the run. So I think it's, let's put some faith in Mac Jones and see if he can turn it around. He hasn't done a ton. And last week went downhill with the turnovers, 3 interceptions. And so now in the season, he only has 2 touchdown passes and 5 turnovers. So that is not the recipe for success in New England.
No.
So they have to figure out a way to take care of the ball. And speaking of the short passes with Tampa, I think that's the way to go here. You hit Jacoby Myers in the slot. I think that's going to be their best attack. Teams have had success against Ross Cockrell there. And last week, Myers had 14 targets, 9 catches. Yeah. So Jones loves throwing it to him. Very reasonable $8,400 price on DraftKings. You could also look at Kendrick Bourne. I like him more than Aguilar. Aguilar did have 8 targets last week, but only 2 catches. And I think Bourne is just a better receiver.
Yeah.
He's never really gotten a great opportunity. He was always kind of down the depth chart with San Fran, but I like Bourne as an option here. And then I do want to note, in terms of the roster news here, N'Keal Harry has been designated to return from IR. So, maybe there's a chance he's active. We're recording this on Friday night. So keep an eye on that because he had a good preseason. So he could influence things. But Myers, this also the strongest Pro Football Focus matchup here for the New England wide receivers. And then with the tight end group, Hunter Henry got 5 catches last week, despite fewer targets than Jonnu Smith on the season, fewer routes. So Hunter Henry is another way you could get some exposure to this passing game, and I do think they'll try to use him. But I'm going to avoid these running backs because of the matchup. We also have some moving parts there. James White, of course, out now with the injury. So Damian Harris is the guy, but I hate the matchup, and he's way too expensive this week. So who's going to be the value play to look at? We know J.J. Taylor got a few touches last week. Brandon Bolden did as well. I like Bolden a little bit better here. He caught 3 balls for 23. He's only 600 on DraftKings. We think New England's going to be playing from behind, so he could get some looks. So my thought really on New England, maybe go. The X factor is, do we go with Jones or not? Because I definitely want Myers. We have to have somebody from the Patriots.
Yeah,
he's my favorite target there. And then depending on what type of roster you want to put together, maybe a value play like Brandon Bolden.
Yeah, I think when you bring up Brandon Bolden, it just makes me think of how in general Bill Belichick always has these like obscure running backs that he has featured in some game at random. And he, who knows, it could be the week that Brandon Bolden gets 2 or 3 touchdowns and wins you a tournament, so I definitely like that call.
Yep. No doubt about it. And you support the Jacoby Myers play?
Yeah, I like Jacoby Myers. I liked him in season long. He's one of my sleepers, so definitely on the Myers train there.
Excellent. Well, that game's going to be a lot of fun, very dramatic. Looking forward to watching that one. And then before we transition to the Monday night game, I just want to invite folks to join us for those lineups on Sunday night. The primetime game, we give out separate lineups from the main slate, and we still give out full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, the core on DraftKings for the cash games, the GPP. So jump in at dfscoachtalk.com, grab a 5-day pass, join us for the weekend into next week. You get all of our sports with any membership that you get. Or we just posted our NBA memberships, Josh. And so you can do the first half of the season in the NBA and get that web package on our website. And again, you'll have access to all of our sports. So that'll get you through the Super Bowl if you grab that. So dfscoachtalk.com to sign up, and then we'll send you an email, get you into our Discord, and that's where we give out the lineups about 30 to 45 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that NBA package, that starts right away, right? They don't have to wait
until
the season starts. So
yeah, it's called NBA, but we're offering bonus time. So join now, and you'll get all of our NFL stuff, MLB, PGA, and then we'll be ready to roll when NBA tips off. Before you know it.
Oh yeah,
it's like 18
17 days now, I guess, since we're almost in Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's go to game 2. It's the Raiders and Chargers Monday night, 8:15 Eastern. So early start out there in California. The Chargers, the home favorites here by 3.5, 52.5 total. Undefeated Raiders against the 2-1 Chargers. And, I think the big question mark here for the Raiders is it's an interesting dynamic because we've got Derek Carr, who was named the AFC Offensive Player of the Month. He's averaging 401 yards passing per game. What an incredible start. But the Chargers only give up a little over 200 yards passing per game. The way to attack the Chargers is to run. They allow a league worst 170 yards rushing per game. Just last week, CEH went for triple digits against them. Pollard and Zeke ran all over them the week before. So, what do the Raiders do? I think they will try to run it as much as possible. Gruden certainly loves to play some smash mouth football, but we don't know who's going to be out there. We've got Josh Jacobs questionable with the ankle. Seems like he is getting some work out there on the grass. So, again, we're quite a few hours ahead of kickoff here. So wait and see. If he's active, it becomes a little bit muddy because we don't know, how healthy he'll be. Do they continue to give Peyton Barber some touches? Kenyon Drake, obviously, a big part of this attack as well. So it'll be a little easier to evaluate if he's out, but if he's getting in limited practices, decent chance he plays. So you could go with one of those guys. The pricing is interesting if Jacobs is out because Barber's 6,800, Kenyon Drake 54 on DraftKings. Barber got way more touches last week. 23 carries, went for over 100 yards. Also caught 3 balls. Drake only had 8 carries, but he also caught 3. I like Drake better in terms of talent. And maybe he gets a bit of a boost after all those touches for Barber, but he's not that much cheaper. So, what's your take on this Raiders backfield? It's a little bit murky.
Yeah, it's real murky. And I think, like you said, Barber had the breakout game last week, but I think Kenyon Drake is the more talented running back. So it's hard to know, what they're going to do. We got to get inside John Gruden's mind a little bit, which is a scary proposition.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's entertaining though.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, this is a good time to mention that you really want to have your showdown slate lineups tell a story. Evaluate the game as a whole, which team you think is likely to be ahead, and then you've got the team trailing, likely to throw more. Who are they going to target when they're behind? Is it a team that likes to throw to a running back a bunch? And so that can help you make a decision on which running back to play. So let's talk about the passing game here. When they do pass the rock, I like Hunter Renfrow again. He made us some money last week. Nice value play against Miami, 5 for 77 and a score. In this one, he's priced back up, much more of a moderate mid-tier guy. But Pro Football Focus has this as the number one matchup for wide receivers in this game. Renfrow in the slot against Campbell. And we saw what CeeDee Lamb did against the Chargers, 8 for 81, much more productive than Cooper and company. So I like Renfrow. I liked him a lot against Miami. I don't like that he's priced up a little bit here, but, it's a different situation. So you just evaluate it within the context of this showdown slate. And I trust him more than Ruggs and Edwards, especially on DraftKings and PPR. You could look at things a little bit differently on FanDuel. Then we've got Waller, who, as we were talking about before the podcast here, sort of matchup proof. But Kelsey did well against the Chargers last week, 7 for 104. Waller is just a monster. So you have to pay a monster price if you want to get him in. And, he may be a real turning point here because, if you fade him, that can be a big mistake because he can put up, 30 fantasy points or more. But he's expensive if you play him. And if he has just one of his average 5 for 50 games, then he's probably not going to be in the winning lineup. So what are your thoughts on the passing game here? Do you like Renfrow, Waller, or do you like one of the other guys?
Yeah, I do like Renfro. I've also noticed from the games that I've watched with the Raiders that Edwards seems to be a guy that Carr really trusts, especially down the field. So he's somebody that I'm going to keep an eye on too. But if I was going to pay up for one Raider, it would definitely be Darren Waller. I mean, like we said, he's matchup proof, and it's a good matchup for the Raiders against the Chargers, who've been, susceptible to the tight end. So.
Yeah, and Edwards really had a nice stretch there down the stretch against Baltimore in that overtime game. And that reminds me, I wanted to mention that the Raiders 3-0 here, but 2 overtime wins. They could easily be 1-2.
Yeah.
And so I do think it makes sense for the Chargers to be favored. So why don't you take that side? Do you agree that do you like the Chargers side here a little bit better?
Yeah, I do like the Chargers. They're at home. This is going to be, a big game for them after the big win in Kansas City. The crowd's going to be fired up, obviously. Herbert's the 5th highest projected scoring quarterback by Pro Football Focus this week, just behind Brady. And like I said, last week they won in Arrowhead. He had 26 out of 38 passes for 281 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. So big week for Justin Herbert last week, and I think he's going to pick up right off, where he left off last week and have another big game this week. And he's probably going to be looking, especially if Keenan Allen's a little banged up. It looks like he will play, but he's a little banged up. And Mike Williams has really become his favorite wide receiver. Keenan Allen's been targeted 33 times, and Mike Williams has been targeted 31 times. But in the red zone, Mike Williams has come down with 4 touchdowns, and Keenan Allen only has 1. And Williams is actually the 2nd highest fantasy receiver this year so far. So Mike Williams is definitely on, pace for a breakout season. And I think he's probably going to have another big game on Monday night. And then the other option you could look at is, of course, Austin Eckler. He's seen 15 targets over the last 2 games. Actually, he didn't see any in week 1. So he's averaging 19 fantasy points per game this season. So when you take into effect that he didn't have, and you consider that he didn't have any targets in week 1, and he's still averaging 19 fantasy points per game, that's pretty impressive. And he should see a pretty heavy workload again this week. And Pro Football Focus has him projected as the 7th highest projected scoring half or running back. And, so this is a favorable matchup for Austin Eckler. And then for tight ends, the Chargers let Hunter Henry, as you mentioned earlier, go to New England. And they actually have the former Packer Jared Cook now. So you could look at him as a low-owned tight end option. As we saw, this past Monday night, tight ends have had pretty big impacts on games. And so if it's going to be somebody like a
Hey, Josh, I lost you there for a second.
I know, I noticed that.
Were you calling Cook the newest Uzama?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
But it just seems like tight ends have, pretty big impact on these games, these primetime games. So we saw it with Dalton Schultz. We saw it with CJ Azuma. So maybe Jared Cook could be the one this week. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, certainly all the great lessons he learned while in Green Bay, he took them with him for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key. You zero in on the top 4 for the Chargers, and you decide, do you want to go with all of them? Herbert, Eckler, Allen, Williams on DraftKings, or do you want to leave one of them out, go with 3 of the 4? I think that's probably the decision I'm going to be making. And, it pains me, those stats about Williams and the touchdowns, because I've got Keenan Allen on a season-long league.
I do too.
Yeah. But like you said, Williams much more expensive now on DraftKings. So Keenan Allen actually cheaper, which I love on DraftKings. And Eckler, man, a PPR monster.
Yeah.
I just love that guy. So, I may go with Eckler and Allen and Herbert. I may fade Williams here because of the price and, hope for some touchdowns funneling more towards Keenan Allen here. And Cook, definitely a factor. 4,400 is a nice price for him. Positive matchup, according to Pro Football Focus. Then the cheaper guys for the Chargers, those are like the real GPP type situations. If you're going to go with a Jalen Guyton or a Palmer,
Yeah.
and then the backup running backs have just put out dud after dud with Roundtree and Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson, I like his profile, his talent. He's made, he's had some strong games, but not really trending in the right direction. Just hasn't gotten it going this year. But he's only $200 on DraftKings. So somebody to consider if you're playing multiple lineups. But yeah, this is an Eckler and Allen game for me. Probably Herbert, and I am going to lean towards this Charger side in the Monday night matchup.
Yeah. I like what you pointed out about Keenan Allen. I mean, you can't just expect Mike Williams to do that every week. So I think that one of these nights it's going to be Keenan Allen's turn, and when Allen's priced lower than Williams, that'd be a good week to pick him. So absolutely.
Well, we will put our final picks together for Monday night. Feels like a long way away.
Yeah,
we wanted to get this one out early for the weekend so people can listen to it whenever they want on Saturday after you get ready for the main slate. So again, check that one out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We're going to continue to bring these 3 podcasts per week for all of the key slates in NFL DFS, the Wednesday night show for the Thursday game, and then the main slate, and then this primetime show to get you ready for those 2 games. And then, again, we give out full lineups for all these games and the main slate. Full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, cash lineup, GPP lineup, and then the core on DraftKings in cash and GPP. So we try to get our members ready for all the different possibilities, and we appreciate them. Really enjoy our Discord. So jump in with us again, dfscoachtalk.com. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us on Twitter at dfscoachtalk. All right, that will do it for the primetime show. Josh, great work as always on behalf of the entire DFS Coach Talk team. And Josh, I'm Andrew Hanson. We'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.